Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we are discussing the sublime Lange Sohne 1815 200th anniversary limited edition of 200 pieces in platinum from the year 2015. You can see and you can purchase this F.A. Lange birthday anniversary timepiece on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this anniversary edition Lange 1815. The watch on my wrist represents a 200th birthday present to F.A. Lange, the father of watchmaking in the modern glashütte. Born in 1815, he founded the forerunner of the modern glashütte Original in 1845, and in a way, he became the wellspring of everything that followed, including modern companies like Nomos, the current Lange Sohne, and yes, today's Geo as well. So this watch is more than just a birthday present to one man. It's more like a celebration of the inception of an entire industry, because it can all be traced back to him. So on my wrist, it's an easy watch to wear. 40 millimeters across the round of the case. It's also quite flat at 19.2 millimeters thick. Because of the generously sloped domed style bezel, it wears effectively even thinner than that, because anything can ramp up over the side of this watch. Wear it with confidence in formal attire with tight cuffs. From lug to lug, it has a 47mm span across the wrist, which means you could easily wear this watch, in my opinion, on a wrist down to a size as small as 13.5 centimeters in circumference. Because of the platinum construction, it has a reassuring weightiness about it. It feels as premium as it looks. The strap is very marginally bolstered in that you can see there's a central spline design to it, but again, it's not thick. When viewed in profile, there is a medium rectangular scale matte finish black alligator leather, a monotone stitch, folded edges, calfskin in black on the underside for souplesse against the skin, and then Lange has a handsome pin buckle that, as you can see, is surprisingly complex with faceting, handsome finishing. You can also see that there is a retention bar, so if you're like me and you have a smaller wrist and you were to buckle the watch tightly down to the last hole or even have additional holes made, sometimes the ardion or the pin of a buckle can get stuck and the strap can pin itself, so to speak, on the pin if you buckle a strap really tight. Well, this retaining bar prevents the strap from getting pulled down so tight that you can't extricate it from your wrist. Thoughtful. That's Lange for you. A simple watch, or perhaps a deceptively complex watch in simple packaging, and that continues on the case, where you can see that there are sharp character lines born of the junction of case back and mid case as well as bezel and mid case. They help to stretch the watch visually horizontally, but there's a handsome step between the lug flank and the case that you can see best from underneath that allows them to be sort of sculptural separate form in their own right, and also adds to the contrast created by the double finishing polished on the flank of the lug, satin or grained along the flank of the case. You can see that the lugs are handsomely executed with a transitional bevel between their flanks and their polished tops. When you view the watch from head on, however, and you can see from this angle, it is all about the dial, the domed bezel melting away like a silver halo, and the dial taking pride of place. Let me see if I can lighten things up with a bit of a higher aperture setting to highlight the features of this dial. Now you can see that the dial is no nonsense. I am slayed by the combination of the double finished white metal case and the black dial. First, start with the traditional, the railroad style minutes track outboard of stylized vintage inspired Arabic numerals. The white on black print is perfect for instant legibility, and I applaud the use of more delicate and elegant alpha style hands, which are pinched at their root rather than the heavier and sometimes awkward triangular Dauphine style. You'll also note that they're beautifully finished, of high polish, in white gold, as is the counterweighted baton style sub-seconds. Now if you look from this angle, you can see that there's a little bit of a change of plane of the dial, with the hour track being elevated higher than the center dial, and sub-seconds being countersunk. You can also see how it erodes most of the numeral 6. But that allows the watch to have a wonderfully symmetrical dial. If you draw a line from 12 to 6, it goes from 12 through the marquee, through the hands at center, down through the sub-seconds dial, and right to the root of the dial. It's simple, it's classical, it's timeless. It'll look as good 200 years from now as it does today. This is essentially a future-proof design. Turn it over, and well, With all due respect to F.A. Lange, things have never been better in Glashütte. This is the modern standard of German watch finish that was largely created by Lange. Let me see if I can get it better in focus, and then we will talk about what we're looking at. Okay, so the movement right here, this is Lange manufacturer caliber L0511, manual wind, 55-hour power reserve, beautifully executed and hand finished in every respect. It does feature hacking or stop seconds, regulated in 5 positions with 23 jewels. Now that you know the specs, let's talk a little bit about some of the art and artistry beyond the engineering. You can see all of German silver. That's a colloquial industry term for what's essentially a nickel, copper, zinc alloy. It's untreated, so it's not like rhodium-plated Swiss brass, which is silver. This has a little bit of a golden hue that becomes more intense with time. It's because of the copper in the alloy. You can also see straight lines, beautifully textured. You can see how they grow darker on one side and lighter on the other. That's a sign of true Glashütte stripes, not embossed. There we go, that's sharp focus. Not embossed or pressed. These are actually laid down with a roller and abrasive. You'll also note blued screws, kiln fired, heat oxidized. These are not the chemically dyed blue screws. Now there are other screws that are polished. The Q with Lange being a blue screw is used for physically assembling parts and holding them together. Polished screws are used for regulating the mechanism. You'll also note that when I turn the watch flush to the camera, the edges of the bridges and the jewel sinks actually light up. That is mirrored anglage. I don't know what the German terminology would be, so I'm using the French, but it's a rounded mirror-finished, optically smooth edge that quite literally takes the hard, sheer surface off the edge of every bridge and the balance cock, as well as the jewel countersinks. And you can see this despite the fact that the jewels are set in chaton. They are immaculately polished in their own right. So you have the anglage mirrored on the edge of the bridge. You have the German silver, which is that untreated copper-based alloy. You have black polish, which is everything that goes from silver to black when I turn it flush to the camera. You have a 3/4 style bridge, which is an homage to the pocket watches of F.A. Lange's era. You would have had one large 3/4 style bridge featuring the barrel and the train, and that would have essentially held most of the running gear of the watch in place back in the old days, just as the jewels set in screw-fixed chaton would have made up for the fact that machining tolerances weren't quite that precise back then, and it was difficult to set a jewel directly into the bridges, and thus we would have these small seats called chaton that would be held in place by screws, allowing for removal and maintenance of the jewels over time. Finally, the balance cock with a black polished swan's neck regulator is completely freehand engraved. So this is not guilloche, this is not stamped, this is not laser ablation of any kind. It is actually engraved out with a chisel by hand by an individual artisan who will never make any two exactly alike. So you get something that truly makes your watch, despite being part of a 200-piece series, a piece unique. Beautifully executed. The watch even features an even and tight perlage across the base plate. It is a wellspring of inspiration and beauty such that you may inspect it 20 times by loop over the years and find you discover something new each time. Beautiful on both sides. The logic of this watch is essentially the antithesis of planned obsolescence. Beautiful forever. There's no better way I can think of to celebrate 200 years. Happy birthday, F.A. Lange. Well worth the wait.